Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Blitz Sports Media. I'm Ryan Linklater, and I'm here with my co-host, Brady Penn. We're on the Blitz angle, and we just watched the Chiefs get their absolute asses kicked tonight in the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts is now a Super Bowl championship ring on his hand. He has cemented himself as a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Saquon Barkley gets a ring. A lot of the Eagles players who weren't there when they got their ring last time weren't on the team as well. So a lot of first-time Super Bowl winners. The Chiefs ran out of steam. They played like dog shit, and they just got bullied tonight. Brady, what are your quick takeaways from this one?
Yeah, I think number one, Vic Fangio absolutely cooked up a hell of a game plan for this Philly defense. And talked about the fact that they weren't necessarily going to blitz a lot, and they were going to have to try and get pressure on Mahomes with 4-man fronts. We didn't know how successful that would or wouldn't be. Obviously, the answer ended up being extremely successful. And we talked about, I think I said, they have to take away the short stuff. And that's absolutely what they did. They challenged the Chiefs to beat them vertically down the field. Mahomes, a lot of time, didn't have the time to find something down the field and let it develop. And he started to force some stuff underneath and in the intermediate part of the field. It cost him a couple of times backed up in their own territory. Obviously, the pick six to Cooper DeJean, and then the really athletic interception by Zach Vaughn. So I think that all in all, the Chiefs have been so good all year and really the last 3 years at making other teams play their game. I think the Eagles turned the table on them. I think the Eagles forced the Chiefs to play to their style. I think they forced the Chiefs to play their type of game in Eagles football. And as a result, both teams started slow offensively, but the Eagles defense just was on one from the opening whistle, and they were able to get after it. I think that was the number one takeaway is Vic Fangio, and I wrote about it in my Super Bowl preview. He just done wonders for this defense. This defense was abysmal after Jonathan Gannon left last year with Matt Patricia at the helm, changed defensive play callers multiple times mid-season. Then they get Vic Fangio. They draft DeJean. They draft Quinyon Mitchell. They bring in Zach Vaughn, and Fangio puts him in a role that he's never been in before in his career. He never played in the box in New Orleans, really. That's all he did this year. He was an all-pro. He got an interception in the Super Bowl, and as a result, he's a champion.
Yeah, on the Eagles side of things, defensively, they were just dominant today. Rushing with 4 and not having to bring pressure or blitzes seems like the formula for basically throwing this Chiefs offense off. When you get pressure without having to bring any other guys in coverage, it makes it pretty easy against a team that throws the ball 90% of the time. Offensively, I thought the Eagles did a good job tonight. Obviously the Chiefs defense played a lot better than their offense tonight, but the Eagles consistently found a way to capitalize on pass plays on 2nd and 3rd and long. Saquon Barkley was completely neutralized in this game. And, if you thought you held Saquon Barkley to 25 carries for 57 yards, you'd think you did a good enough job to go win a game. Unfortunately, that was not the case. Jalen Hurts looked like the fastest he's ever looked in his career tonight. He was running with a head full of steam. Outside, Devonta Smith had a big game. A.J. Brown had a few big catches. I do want to talk about the Chiefs offense, though. This offensive performance was fucking pitiful. That was one of the worst offensive performances I think I've ever watched, of any team, not even just from the Chiefs, of any team through 3 quarters of that game. The offensive line, abysmal. Within the first drive of the game, could not block. Andy Reid calls 1 run play for 4 fucking drives when the Eagles defense is just teeing off on Mahomes early. And then Mahomes, this is easily the worst game he's played in his career. The Bengals second half was horrible. The Bucks game was horrible. But as soon as he had pass rush early in this game, he was like, oh shit, I'm going to have to do this all myself. He got happy footwork. He threw it right to the defense. He was horrible tonight. It is the worst Patrick Mahomes performance tonight. And I'm blaming all of these guys. And the guy that needs to be blamed too is Andy Reid. This was a dog shit game plan. It was horrible. This is the worst Chiefs football I've ever seen in all my years of watching. I mean, this was the Bucs Super Bowl on steroids, because at least when you watched that game, you saw a little bit of Mahomes playing well. This game was just horrible. The only bright spot on the Chiefs side of things was Xavier Worthy. He absolutely had a great game. And you know what, Brady? We talk about, Patrick Mahomes throws underneath. Patrick Mahomes throws underneath. Why the hell are they not throwing the ball to Xavier Worthy over the top more often? It makes no sense. I mean, you have a bunch of speedy receivers. I know Mahomes has been accurate this year. Throw the ball deep. Who cares? Show a different look. I mean, everything fell apart at the wrong time. And even the penalties, they were just an undisciplined football team today, whether it was on defense or offense, where it just set them back too much. The defense had brutal penalties on 3rd downs when they could get off the field, or 4th downs. Obviously, they had that one turned over, but it was abysmal. They got outcoached, they got outplayed. Basically, every sort of category you need to win a football game, the Chiefs didn't do. And we've seen them get away with this in the regular season when it doesn't matter. We haven't seen it to this extent in the postseason. The Bucs Super Bowl was the closest thing we got to a complete shit show from the Chiefs in the postseason, but this was a new level of dog shit.
Yeah, I mean, you have to wonder at this point, is it just the football gods, is a three-peat destined and never happened? Because it just felt like all the momentum was on the Chiefs side. They'd figured things out coming into this game offensively. They had saved some stuff. Obviously, we saw in that Bills game, they broke 30 for the first time. And to me, I mean, I said the other night in our preview episode, like, I did not see much of a chance of the Eagles winning. Not that I thought they would get blown out, but I just didn't see a lot of scenarios where the Eagles were going to be able to outmaneuver Mahomes and the Chiefs in crunch time. But it turned out they didn't need to, because they dominated them in the first three quarters. And my takeaway from the first 3-4 drives by the Chiefs offensively was, man, like, everything that they're expecting to have open is not open. Everything that's been given to them all year, especially like we said, that underneath, isn't available. And the Chiefs, as good as they are at adjusting, you mentioned it with Andy Reid, they did not adjust tonight. They kept, trying to play their game, which to a certain extent, I agree with. You're the back-to-back Super Bowl champions, one went away from being back-to-back-to-back. So do what works for you. But at the same time, it became pretty clear that their approach was not going to work after 4 or 5 drives, especially after the pick 6 and then the second pick. And they just didn't go away from it. They didn't try and assert the run game. The Eagles were able to tee off, like you said, and just play the pass all night long. And it was a really one-dimensional game by the Chiefs offense. Travis Kelce was nowhere to be seen. Cooper DeJean played an amazing game. Obviously, we talked to him the other night, talked about him defending Kelce. I don't know how much those two were matched up in terms of total snaps, but he had a great game tonight. Obviously, the pick 6. And the Eagles, like I said, they were able to blitz, or they were able to get pressure without blitzing. All in all, they did everything right. Their receivers were winning down the field. They were winning the 50-50 balls, even the early OPI. Like A.J. Brown made some great catches. Goddard got involved a little bit. Devonta Smith had that deep bomb. And I think I said the other night that I thought Jalen Hurts was going to play well. He did more than play well. He excelled tonight. And Jalen Hurts, I think you can make a really compelling case that both of his 2 best career games have come on the biggest stage against the Chiefs, and both times he shredded a Spags defense. The Chiefs' pass rush was not able to be effective. They were the opposite of the Eagles. They had to blitz to even get a little bit of pressure, and it just didn't feel like Hurts was fazed by that pressure at all. He was able to roll out, find space, take off and run a few times, and find guys down the field. It just felt like the Chiefs are so good at preparing. The Chiefs are so good at winning situational football, and they just felt severely underprepared compared to the Eagles tonight. That's what it comes down to for me on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, but Vic mentions Chiefs earned this loss in every way. We're not truly a dominant 16-1 team, ran into a better team and got destroyed. It was crazy. Like, obviously the Chiefs had crazy wins this year. The Chiefs, I think, were a well-deserving 16-1 team. They were 7-1 against playoff teams this year. And, they always wound up coming on top. They lost to the Bills and they lost to the Eagles this season. They were a good team. Like, this was a good Chiefs team. It wasn't a flashy Chiefs team by any means, but they played good defense. They took care of the ball. They were good on third down. And, they didn't do any of that stuff in this game, and that ultimately led to our downfall. Mahomes' turnovers flipped the game. Some of the worst INTs I've seen from him, particularly the first one. Pressure wasn't the reason for it either, and it gave the Eagles a free 14. It was over from that. Yeah, 100% agree. It was over from that point. It was over as soon as Mahomes had pressure almost every 2 snaps, and they got, no running game to go with it. Mahomes had the happy feet. Every time, Brady, we see Mahomes have these games where he kind of disappears a little bit, it's the happy feet. He gets the happy feet. He tries to do too much, and the Chiefs' offense is just not built like that right now until it doesn't matter. So it's interesting to see. I do think coming off of this game on the Eagles side of things, right, Zach Vaughn's going to get a massive contract this offseason. He's been a great player for them. I don't know if it's going to be with Philly, but he's going to get a big contract wherever he is. And to be honest, the secondary for the Eagles, I didn't walk away super, super duper impressed with that secondary. It was the pass rush. Like, literally, the pass rush won them the game. It makes it really easy to go play cornerback or safety or linebacker in a zone coverage when your pass rush is getting home in 3 seconds and Mahomes is stepping up into pressure. Makes life pretty easy. And for the Eagles, this defense, it's a credit to Vic Fangio for what he's done, turning that defense into an elite unit. But, man, their pass rush today really got after it. And what was interesting, looking at the stats before this game, they were only 26 in pressure rate heading into this game. They were just able to finesse that Chiefs offensive line. And I do want to talk about that Chiefs offensive line. Brady, we saw this against the Bucs. They completely overhauled the offensive line. They completely retooled it. I truly think this offseason, Trey Smith is not coming back. Joe Tooney will obviously be back. Creed will be back. But they're going to make a lot of moves. They're going to completely shift what this offensive line is going to do next year, and we will see a new piece at left tackle. We will see a new piece at right guard. They need to be better in pass protection to get this Chiefs offense back to when they need, those downfield plays. They just haven't had the downfield plays, and they only needed it, when it didn't matter at this point.
Yeah, and first off, I want to preface what I'm about to say by you are not saying this, but I'm already seeing a lot of people just kind of on the social media forum saying this. We're not letting Mahomes off the hook for this game. You gave him the blame that I think was rightfully deserved. This game is not all on him. This game's not all on Reid. It's not all on the O-line. It's a combination of just kind of garbage from all three of them. But we are not going to do what we did with Super Bowl 55 and say that nobody could win behind this offensive line and that Mahomes was doomed from the start or anything like that. I mean, the Chiefs were favored going into this game, and yes, the O-line did play bad. The O-line was not good. I also think that Mahomes ran into some pressures himself. You mentioned the happy feet. I think he held the ball a little bit too long, and I don't want to say that again to just rip on him and say that he's the main reason they lost. But to anybody out there that's going to try and do this whole revisionist history thing with Super Bowl 59 that they did with 55, for all the credit that Patrick Mahomes gets, and this goes for all great QBs, he's got to get a certain amount of blame too when things go the way they did tonight. And I definitely think the offensive line is just as much to blame, but we're not letting him off the hook. So I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, 100% Mahomes sucked ass tonight for sure. We'll go through some questions in the chat real quick here before we get into more. Who is y'all's Super Bowl pick for next season? Off the top of my head right now, I'm gonna have to go. I don't know. Who do you think right now?
I'm thinking through the divisions here. NFC North, NFC South, NFC West, NFC East.
I really do think NFC-wise, I think the 49ers might get back next year.
I was just about to say, I think the Niners could go back, man. They weren't healthy this year. CMC will be healthy and locked in. Kittle will be healthy and locked in. Ayuk will be back. Purdy will be presumably paid and happy. And the defense, I think that they're big contenders for Myles Garrett. I really do. I think that if they got Myles Garrett and paired him next to Nick Bosa on that defense, depending on what they did in the back end, I think the 49ers could make it. And in the AFC, I'm cool off the Bills for a while. And maybe the Chiefs make it back for the 4th straight year. But I kind of think next year could be Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to go pick the Chiefs right now. I was thinking like the trajectory of the past, right? You get blown out in a Super Bowl. You have the AFC Championship game against the Bengals. Who knows what we're going to get next year? I'm obviously caught up in the moment a little bit of this dog shit fucking offense performance.
I think that the historical rate of making it back to the game after losing outside of those 90s Bills teams is pretty low. So we could see the Chiefs take a year off, but I absolutely would not.
It'll be interesting though, because I don't think there's any chance Kelsey retires after that game. I think Kelsey will be back for one last season.
I don't think that he's retiring either, but I could also see the angle of obviously this season he didn't look like the same Kelsey. And honestly, at points tonight, I'm going to say it. I think he looked a little bit checked out at points. I'm just a little bit dazed.
I think that was more frustration than checked out. At that point, literally, you got to think, these guys, all the whole year, they did everything to get to this game, and they literally just shit their pants. The frustration was pretty clear from them tonight.
I want to say here to Jerry, he's mentioning Detroit. I do think Detroit could still be good, but they're losing Ben Johnson. They're losing Aaron Glenn. They're going to have to hit on these coordinator hires. And I personally think Jared Goff is a little bit of a scheme merchant. He was one with McVay. I think he was with Ben Johnson. So they're going to need to bring in a guru. I do think they'll be contending for the NFC North. They'll still be a good team. I'm not penciling them in as my NFC representative next year. And you want to know one dark horse here that I want to say, if they're able to make a move and get a Tyreek or even a T. Higgins and shore up the defense, I think the Commanders could be in the mix next year. I really do. If Jaden Daniels repeats what he did this year, I'm not going to say
that division is going to be tough next year. Really
it
tough.
will. By the way, I do think there's a chance that the Cowboys could add Deebo Samuel and Stephon Diggs, which I know Diggs isn't normal Diggs and this isn't prime Deebo, but putting those two with CeeDee Lamb, it could be beneficial. We'll see.
Could be frisky. Let's get back to the game here. Did the pass rush win the game, or did the Chiefs offensive line lose the game? That's a great debate that I'd like to be broken down on film. To make this
we got to make a video of this.
Yeah, to make it pretty clear, we don't even have to watch the film. The Eagles pass rush should have got Super Bowl MVP. They completely shifted what happened in this game. Obviously, you can blame the Chiefs offensive line for not holding up better, but the Eagles offensive line just played really well. You can't discredit them based off the Chiefs offensive line being really bad tonight. The Eagles defensive line played great. And to be honest, we talked about Caliendo potentially being a hole against Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter rarely lined up against him. It was Jordan Davis who absolutely was bullying Caliendo. And at halftime, people were calling for the switch, put Humphreys at left tackle, put Tooney back at left guard. That just was never going to happen. But it is the Eagles pass rush that went out and won the game.
I think that eventually
this comment's funny. If Brandon Graham's getting pressure at this point, then someone
Brandon Graham ate at certain points this season. I'm not here for the BG disrespect, even though he strip sacked Tom Brady. That's something I also want to mention here in a second. The past Eagles Super Bowl win kind of correlating with this. But what I want to say is the cracks were eventually going to show with Joe Tooney playing out of position at left tackle. And in the first half, Josh Sweat was pretty much getting what he wanted. He was overpowering Joe Tooney with the combination of speed and size. Obviously, there weren't really a whole lot of blitz pickups by the running backs, and Josh Sweat had, I think, at least 3 or 4 pressures in the first half, including on that pick to Zach Vaughn. But the Eagles, they might just be like three-peat preventers in the football world because obviously in a different way, but they beat the Patriots in Super Bowl 52. The Patriots won the year before and the year after, would have had a three-peat if they had, in theory, if they had won 52. And then obviously tonight, Chiefs 1 game away from history. The Eagles pretty much have eliminated 2 three-peats. So maybe next time the Eagles play a team that's won back-to-back Super Bowls, definitely put heavy money on Philly.
It's not the same. You can't say that's the same. It's different. I see what you're saying. It's different in a way. It's different.
No, it's not the exact same, but I'm just saying they did theoretically prevent 2 three-peats.
Jerry Smith, can we all agree that Howie Roseman is the GM of the year? If I'm not mistaken, they drafted a Super Bowl MVP in the second round. I mean, Howie literally, and he's got the 3 free agents right here. Howie's great.
Yeah, we don't even have to go into Jalen Hurts. We can just look at this past year. Quinyon Mitchell, Zach Vaughn, Saquon Barkley, Cooper DeJean, Mekhi Becton. Like, come on. Even Dotson had a good
Howie Cookson is able to get the player. I just don't understand. Like, he always hits. Like, he's always hitting. It was the Jalen Reagor hit that didn't happen, and besides that, he's cooked. He literally hits on every single pick. The Eagles roster is always the best roster in the NFL. It's crazy.
I think I don't know the cap situation, but I've seen their name floated around in this. I think Philly could be a player for Myles Garrett too, man. I really do. And can you imagine?
Yeah, I mean, that'd be crazy. That would be nuts.
Yeah.
The thing about Philly, like, obviously Philly is great. They have a super talented roster. But whenever Philly gets these runs, it always feels like they have a year or 2 off where they're just not clicking at the same level after their Super Bowl run, to where Philly has a little bit of injuries, whatever it is, some offensive struggles. Do you think we're going to see something from Philly like that next year?
I don't, because I know that after Super Bowl 57, obviously there was the hangover where the defense became horrible, but they lost both coordinators. I know they'll be losing their OC and Kellen Moore, but to be honest, the offense was not like that explosive, that amazing this year. I think they were like 8th in EPA or something like that. They were good, but I think that they can, with the different coordinators, still have that same kind of production. But if Vic Fangio stays along, this defense is only going to get better. I think I counted last night, there are 8 starters on this defense that are 25 or younger. They're all still going to hit their peaks in the future. And if they add another difference maker on either side of the ball, I think they'll be good. Because even the like fall off or whatever after Super Bowl 52, first of all, Wentz was the starter that year, and he got hurt again right before the postseason. Foles came in. They won the joint game, obviously, and then they lost by a score and a heartbreaking interception in the divisional. It's not like they were just not good that year. And I remember I thought that they would beat the Saints and go to the NFC Championship. So we'll see. Obviously, it's really tough to repeat. I think the Patriots and the Chiefs are the only two teams to do that this century. But we'll see. I think they'll still be right in the mix next year, barring injury.
Yeah, what's interesting to see, what do you think Kansas City needs to look at this offseason? I know I already mentioned they're going to retool the offensive line, but what do you think they're going to be looking to do this offseason?
I think they're going to need a new left tackle. Obviously, like you said, Tooney will be shifting back into guard. Right guard's not really a priority, even if Trey Smith leaves. That's one of the, I guess, lesser valued offensive line position. Tackles and center are probably the most important. I think they need another premier edge rusher. I think George Karlaftis is on his way to becoming a really good player. Chris Jones is a monster at the 3-tech, but I think they need another guy to help them rush the passer with 4-man fronts, because obviously, Spags is so good at dialing up these blitzes. But tonight, the Eagles' offensive line, which is such a juggernaut, they were picking up a lot of these blitzes. They held their own, and the Chiefs were not able to create a consistent pass rush. I think a pass rusher is definitely the way to go, and I think they need to get a little bit more athletic in the box. These are run-stuffing linebackers. Leo Chenal could become really good, but Drew Tranquil really didn't do much this season, and I think Nick Bolton might be out of there too.
Yeah, I mean, defensively wise, I do think they're going to make minor adjustments. Justin Reed could be on his way out. Nick Bolton, I think, is likely gone. I think they're going to try to go get more coverage guys that are more twitchy. Bolton's not necessarily that fast player. I think they need more twitchy players. And the defensive line, right, they've been able to get pressure in the postseason. I think George Karlaftis is a nice player. They're all pretty good against the run, but, I mean, the pressure is just not enough, right? Teams are always going to double Chris Jones, try to take away Chris Jones, but the pressure is not there enough. And we saw tonight, Jalen Hurts had a lot of time in a lot of different situations to make plays, and they need to find a way to shore up over the middle. They need a slot corner that is better than Nazeeth Johnson, Shamari Connor, whatever the combo is for them there. They need a better slot corner to work opposite of Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson. And I wouldn't be opposed to them bringing in a bigger corner and potentially moving McDuffie back to the slot, which might work better.
Do we think that we could see a Javarius Ward reunion? He's a free agent. He pretty much all but said he's leaving the Niners, not because of the team, but unfortunately, obviously, his young daughter passed away, and he said that that's pretty much the spot of one of the worst memory of his life. So he's probably moving on, and like you said, they might need a corner. So I could see that.
The thing is, though, they don't bring in veteran corners. They always draft through the corner position. And then you got the wide receiver room, too, that you got to look at. I mean, I think a mix of Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, and Rashee Rice for a season would be awesome to see. We never got to see that trio ever play a snap together, and we were really excited about that heading into the season. What we'll need to see, though, is what they do with Brown. Brown's going to be a free agent. I'm sure he's going to have some suitors. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a free agent. I do think Juju will be back. I think he does well within the system, and he's a solid 5 or 6 receiver. Justin Watson's a free agent, too. What do you think of the receiver room?
It just depends. Are they going to re-sign Hopkins and Brown? Are they going to re-sign one? Are they going to get neither back? Because if they get neither back, they got to draft a guy in the first 3 rounds, I think. We'll see. It'll be interesting. They're always really good also in free agency at finding these kind of, under-the-radar guys like Hollywood Brown was last year, it feels like. I mean, I know he ended up sucking, but Kadarius Toney, even they made the midseason trade, and he made a big impact in KC. So you never know. We had Sammy Watkins making a big impact early on. So I think that they'll find somebody that can fit within the system, because let's face it, in the Andy Reid system, it's a pretty wide receiver friendly type deal.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But Vic mentions that they need to get a Kelsey replacement, kind of like how the Eagles got Goddard and then got Ertz out of there. Get an explosive receiver. I don't know, maybe Tyreek Hill if he wants out of Miami. On defense, they have good players, but I'm not so informed on what they need. Travis Kelce will be with the Chiefs as long as he plays football. I am not sure what necessarily, they do, because Kelce is not the same player he once was. He has the volume of, putting up numbers, but he just doesn't get open. He's not fast. He doesn't stretch a defense by any means. Teams can play underneath and cheat on that a little bit. He's a great all-time tight end. But I just don't know. Like, Kelce is just not the same player. He kind of just takes up space, and, it's just not good to have him out there. They just need to get back to a downfield passing game And they're not going to be able to do that, I don't think, as long as Kelsey is still playing.
Yeah, you know what I think is crazy? First off, I want to, give a little bit of context when it comes to what the Chiefs have done the last few years, because I don't think that this game, even as some of you believe me, the resident Chiefs hater, I think we need to appreciate what they've done over the last few years. But before I get into that, this game tonight could be really a legacy changing game, not a legacy damaging game necessarily, because we all know Mahomes is already an all-time great quarterback. Travis Kelce already an all-time great tight end. Andy Reid already an all-time great coach. But let's face it, these guys had the chance to do something that no one had ever done. They were one game away from doing something that had never been done in the history of the National Football League. And I don't know how you felt about it. You're probably a little bit more nervous having a dog in the fight, but it felt pretty inevitable to me that they would do that. Now you go into next season with some question marks. If they aren't able to get it done next year, all of a sudden Mahomes is still sitting at 3, which is still really good. Don't get that twisted. He would be 3-2 in the bowl heading into his age 31 season. So this loss, if they weren't able to get it done next year, could change some things trajectory-wise. I know a lot of people like to talk about the GOAT argument and the pace and all of that. I think that's going to slow down a little bit after tonight. But who knows? I think Chiefs are going to be fine, and they will be back. They will contend again next year, probably at least in the AFC title game if history tells us anything. But this could be a game that, you look back on at the end of Mahomes' career and be like, man, what would it have been like if they had gotten that one? So who knows? But what I wanted to say really quick is just, I know America is happy tonight. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm upset at what happened, but what the Chiefs accomplished over the last 3 years, and really ever since Mahomes came into the league, is historic. And I don't think that this night should take away from that. I mean, what was it? 14-3, 3-0 in the playoffs, so 17-3 Super Bowl win. Then they go 11-6, 15-6 total, win another Super Bowl. This year, essentially go 15-1, because let's face it, that Broncos game was a complete nothing burger. Go back to the Super Bowl. At that point, you're 17-1. And yeah, you fall short in the big game, but again, no team has ever done this in history. So I don't think that we can really clown on the Chiefs. I think that there can be a collective sense of relief. I think that's fine for the crowd that didn't want the Chiefs to get it done. But you can't just sit here and say the Chiefs suck or that they're just awful or anything like that. This was truly special, the last 3 years run, and fell one game short, but just still going to be etched in history, whether people like it or not.
Yeah, Maddie mentioned that they needed the loss to do better next season. For Kelsey, she said either drop pass or wasn't there for him. What I will say about this, Brady, I got a little beef to pick with you here about this. You Tom Brady truthers are taking too much of a victory lap, almost more than Eagles fans on Twitter right now. It is crazy.
Yeah, 100%.
It is crazy.
100%. I was no, because all these people, Stephen A. Smith, Nick Wright, all these dumb.
You know who Stephen A. Smith picked today, Brady? He picked the damn Eagles. He doesn't even know what he's saying. You cannot listen to these people.
But listen, though. Nick Wright, first thing I see when I get on my Twitter today, if Mahomes wins this game today, he is the greatest player of all time in NFL history. All these people, if Mahomes gets a three-peat, he's the GOAT. I see Chiefs pages on Twitter. Today is the day Patrick Mahomes becomes the greatest player ever. No, it's not happening. It's not happening yet. It may be one day down the road, but it is disrespectful to a 7-time champion who did it for 23 years, had to win 4 before people even considered putting him over Montana, to be replaced with a guy with 4 rings just because he got the three-peat. The three-peat would have been a crazy, insane feat. But yeah, I'm going to take my victory lap, because all I had to hear all year was when Mahomes gets this, he finally passes him. Brady's going to be second. People are going to forget about Brady. I'm sorry, but to everybody that said that, fuck y'all.
Listen, you are listening to the 1% of people on Twitter that were actually saying that. Any person with common sense knows that Patrick Mahomes would have never passed Tom Brady with that 1 ring. What I do not and will not stand for is people on Twitter absolutely saying that it's completely over. Brady has cemented his legacy still as the GOAT. Mahomes is not anywhere near the realm of Brady. We can both agree that this game does absolutely nothing to hurt Patrick Mahomes' legacy. He made 3 straight Super Bowls. Look, he played like dog shit tonight. He was horrible in this game. We have never seen a quarterback reach the Super Bowl or have as many accolades as Patrick Mahomes before age 30. He still has a whole nother season before he gets there, right? Patrick Mahomes is on an unreal pace right now, and I don't even want to look at this conversation until Mahomes' career is done. Brady is the GOAT. Brady has 7 Super Bowl rings. He has all the accolades. Mahomes is on a better pace than Brady right now. Just let it go and relax, people. Brady is the GOAT. Mahomes is trending in the right direction, but it's just not happening yet. And I don't want people to go and say, oh no, Patrick Mahomes, his career's over. He will never be the GOAT. Oh no. You know what happened last time people said that? He went to 3 straight Super Bowls. He won 2 of them. He got an MVP. I mean, guys, just let it play out. It's going to play out how it plays out. And to be honest, either way, we're still looking at the first and second best quarterback of all time, and it's not very close after that.
Yeah, here's what I'll add to that. I think that my issue, not with you, I think you're one of the logical Chiefs fans. You've always been upfront about the fact that Brady is the GOAT, but Mahomes is just, he's chasing greatness, as Mahomes says himself. So many people out here, here's what I kept going back to. Both the Super Bowl 55 and this game tonight. Was it all Patrick Mahomes' fault? Absolutely not. But if this was Tom Brady that had the exact same game, the exact same circumstances, he would be getting absolutely destroyed. He got destroyed for losing by 1 score to the Giants both times. He got destroyed for throwing for 500 yards and losing to Nick Foles. So I guess all that I would like from these people in this camp is consistency, because we get coddling of Mahomes. We get excuses for Mahomes. Didn't matter how Brady lost. Didn't matter how good Brady was when he lost. It was all on him. He sucked, and he was a crybaby, and he was a loser and a cheater and all this other bullshit that people like to say. But at the end of the day, you're right. Let it play out. The one thing that I always think of when it comes to this debate is Tom Brady's peak was from age 30 to 43. Patrick Mahomes, I feel like, is still going to be a great quarterback, but is Patrick Mahomes going to peak more than he already has statistically, accolade-wise, from the ages of 30 to 43? I tend to think not, and I also think that he will play a little bit less than Tom, just because Tom was a freaking psycho for playing until he was 45. We had never seen anyone have real success even at 40 when Brady won an MVP at age 40. But who knows? If anybody can do it, it's Patrick Mahomes. I think the argument for the Brady camp is Brady's going to make up for it on the back end with all the pace and everything that everybody talks about. I think Brady's going to start to outpace him once we get to that age 33, 34, 35 range. But we'll see. Mahomes has a lot of ball ahead of him, and this certainly isn't an indictment on his career tonight, but it's a bump in the road when it comes to catching Brady. And I think that you have to admit that if you're a Chiefs fan.
What I will say about this is this game, right? It would have been a bump for Mahomes for sure. You have 4 rings. Nobody can question you as the second best quarterback of all time at that point. And then you have that three-peat over, Brady never had that. Brady, listen, you already have the fact that you made 3 straight Super Bowls. You had a chance for the three-peat. You missed out on that. No team in NFL history did that, right? But the thing about Mahomes that's just been different, and everybody can agree with this the last few seasons, is the numbers just aren't there for Patrick Mahomes the last 2 years. Do we really think that Mahomes is going to continue to just put up these really shitty numbers, play this type of football, almost kind of like a bored football in the regular season, right? Unfortunately, the Chiefs are not going to win Super Bowls at this rate either. I think we get a more motivated Mahomes in the regular season at times next season, which could be interesting. I mean, I want to see a better Chiefs offense in the regular season. That is more of what I'm looking for. Who knows? We might get better stats ultimately from Patrick Mahomes. But the thing about this debate that's so interesting is that Tom Brady's legacy, half of it was prior to social media at this point, right? Nobody had all the tweets, all the Instagram posts, all that stuff talking about Brady Mahomes, all this type of stuff, whatever little detail about this thing. It just feels very different that us being, very football conscious in this moment, going through it. It's very different. And, Angel, I want to talk about this right now. Talk about Mahomes has played mid in every Super Bowl. Listen,
not 57.
Mahomes in every Super Bowl, I think they probably played a number 1 defense or number 2 defense in almost 4 of the 5?
Tom threw 4 tutties on the Legion of Boom, though.
No, I'm not even saying that. I'm saying once you get to that game, bro, you're not going to put up gaudy stats. You're going to put up shitty numbers against these good defenses, but ultimately it's about how you're going to get the job done. Mahomes has been not himself in the Super Bowl. That is 100% a fact. Mahomes turns the ball over at a higher rate. Mahomes struggles in the postseason. We got TikTok disconnecting on us for no reason as well. But he really struggles in that Super Bowl, and a part of it might be him pressing, trying to make too many plays, but it never seems like the Chiefs get out on the run. But we just can't talk about stats and playing mid in the Super Bowl. Brady has plenty of games in his postseason career where the stats don't look great either, but you can't quantify what these two do in clutch moments. And that's the stupidest part about these debates is you can look at the numbers all you want, but you can't quantify when it's the fourth quarter and it's 2 minutes. These two will just most likely get the job done and win a game. We didn't even get to see that tonight from Mahomes. They just had no chance of doing that. And to be honest, if they did have a chance with 2 minutes left, Brady, everybody is taking the Chiefs with the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hands.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I will give credit to Mahomes for, that I go to bat for him sometimes in chat. Is like, hey, it's not always pretty, but Mahomes is gritty. Like, he finds a way to get it done, like, more often than not. Obviously, last year, the Chiefs got off to a really slow offensive start, but once they got that chance in crunch time, they capitalized. Same thing in Super Bowl 57. Same thing in Super Bowl 54. It's really just these two outliers, these two blowout losses, and the turnovers. Those are really the things that, to me, are the difference just in the Super Bowl isolated alone between those two guys. But enough of the Brady Mahomes discussion. I think we should if we got anything else to say about the game, we should get back to that, because at the end of the day, everybody is going to run around in circles with this.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, about the game, listen, what I was impressed with too was Nick Sirianni. We were very critical of Nick Sirianni throughout this year. You kind of mentioned he's more of that Dan Campbell type coach. He's not necessarily a coordinator or a specialist on offense, defense, or special teams, but Sirianni coached his team well, and the team rallied around him, and he has a job for at least 5 to 6 years. We saw Doug Peterson get one and eventually find out of Philly, but Nick Sirianni finally got the job done, got the ring. And to be honest, if they didn't, make a Super Bowl at least this year, his job was potentially in jeopardy. Yeah. So he clutched up at the right time. What do you think of Sirianni?
I think he's a good leader. In terms of X's and O's, I really don't know. We haven't really seen him take on a play caller role that often, just a couple of times. But Kellen Moore, Vic Fangio, Steichen, Gannon, these other guys we've seen call the plays. But it seems like the Eagles rally around Nick Sirianni. I said this the other night. He kind of embodies that Philadelphia spirit, that tough nose, kind of douchey, but likable also in a way type of head coach. And you never know. Doug Peterson, I think, only got 3 more years after that Super Bowl 52, and I think he got canned after 2020. But I don't see this Eagles roster going anywhere. They're a lot younger than that one was. I mean, that was Nick Foles at QB with Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith out at wide receiver with a vet and Zach Ertz. Vets on the defense and Cox, Brandon Graham, those type of dudes. So I think that this Eagles team is more well equipped for the next 3 to 5 years than the Super Bowl 52 team was.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be interesting. They have a tough division. Obviously, they're going to have to navigate next year. The Chiefs are going to have a tough AFC West as well.
Yeah,
so we'll see what happens. But that officially – what do you say?
The Chiefs did just open as the favorites for next year.
I mean, that's how it probably was going to be anyways, to be honest. But anyways, it concludes our first season here at Blitz for the NFL. It's definitely a good year experiencing that with you guys. Ultimately, we will be providing you guys with content throughout the offseason, so make sure you guys hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all the offseason news. If Travis Kelce is retiring or not, we'll see what happens. But stay tuned for more Blitz content, and me and Brady will catch you guys next time.
Yes, sir. Thank you all.